All right, your focus question for today is going to be, what rules do I follow to solve a two-step equation? What rules do I follow to solve a two-step equation? If you remember from last week, you were solving problems like 12 equals x minus 7. And you asked yourself, or your first step was to do the inverse of what was being done to the variable. Okay? So in this case, you would add 7 to each side. And 19 was equal to x. All right? You were performing the inverse of the operation on the variable. You were doing the inverse of the operation on the variable. So if the variable was being subtracted from, the inverse of subtraction is addition, and you added 7 to both sides. Agreed? Okay. In a two-step equation, here's what the problems are going to look like this week. The only difference between this week and last week is there's going to be a number in front of the variable. Okay? So if there's a number in front of the variable and addition or subtraction, then it's a two-step equation. So let's say you got 2x plus 8 equals 20. The first thing you're trying to do is isolate the variable. Okay? So the first rule is to isolate the variable. And that means to get it by itself. So you're going to take this 2x, which is the variable, and you're going to isolate it. And you're going to do that, you're going to isolate the variable by inverse of addition. What's the inverse of addition?
Subtraction.
All right, so you're going to subtract 8 from each side. Xavier, you need a pencil or a pen or something? So you're going to subtract 8 from each side. Now watch what happens. The same thing happens that happened last week. This cancels. And 2x is going to be equal to 12. Your next step is going to be to solve. But now you're going to be doing the inverse of multiplication, because 2x means 2 times x. So exactly. So in your second step this week, sometimes you're going to be dividing and sometimes you're going to be multiplying. It just depends on what's going on to the variable. So now you're going to do inverse of multiplication. All right, so your problem would look like this. You're going to divide by 2 and divide by 2. Now these 2's cancel, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. And the variable drops straight down. It's all by itself. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. So x is equal to 6. 3x minus 7 equals 20. Following the same steps, what would you do first?
Plus 7.
Very good. You would add 7 to each side. These 7s will cancel out, and 3x will equal 20 plus 7? 27. Next step. Divide both sides by 3. The 3's will cancel. The x falls straight down, and x is going to be equal to 27 divided by 3? 9. Very good. And circle your answer. Four x plus 6 equals 42.
Minus 6 on both sides.
Very good. Subtract 6 from both sides. The 6's cancel. The 4x drops down. 42 minus 6.
36.
And then the next step. Divide each side by 4. The 4's cancel. And x equals 9 again. Any questions so far? Now, hopefully, you'll be okay if you get looking at that problem. Is that a 1-step or a 2-step?
1 step.
So 1 step. And what are you going to do to each side?
Plus 4.
Okay, good. Plus 4 and plus 4. All right, the 4's will cancel, right?
Yeah.
And negative 12 plus 4?
-8.
Negative 8 equals m. So that's a 1-step problem from last week. If you see this problem, is that a 1-step or a 2-step?
1 step.
It's just 1 step, isn't it? There's no addition or subtraction going on, is there? That's done. So, what are you going to do here to solve for the variable? Divide by 2. Good. The 2's will cancel. And in this case, x equals 20. So, just by learning one more little technique, or one more technique, this division technique, or the inverse of multiplication, you can now solve a bunch of different kinds of problems. All right? We're just trying to build on your fundamentals. Okay, so this would be a 1-step equation. This would be a 1-step equation. One of them's dealing with the inverse of subtraction, the other one's dealing with the inverse of multiplication. And then a 2-step equation. And let's do negative 15 equals 2x plus 5. One step or 2-step? It's a 2-step because you have addition and a number in front of the variable. So what's the first step in this problem?
-5 on both sides.
Very good. Subtract 5 from each side. And now you should be doing the calculations in your calculator while we're doing it on the wall. So 15 negative minus 5. You're supposed to be taking notes.
-20.
You're supposed to be doing the calculations.
I know, but like, when you got it was first set up, I was like getting everything organized to binder. So I'm just
So negative 15 minus 5, so negative 20 equals 2x. And the next step.
Divided by 20.
Divide each side by 2, right? By what's the inverse of what's being done to the variable. So divide by 2 and divide by 2. So now it's 20 negative divided by 2.
10 negative.
Negative 10 equals x. These 2's cancel out. Is it making sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the next progression will be when the variable is being divided by. Okay? M divided by 5 plus 4 equals 11. Your process will remain the same. Okay? In this case, you're going to isolate the variable first, so you're going to subtract 4 from each side. These 4's will cancel. Your m divided by 5 will drop down. So your m divided by 5, or m over 5, is going to equal 7. Now you're going to do the inverse of what's being done to the variable. So what's being done to the variable? What is that? It's division. What's the inverse of division?
Multiply.
Going to multiply. So watch. You're going to multiply the left side by 5. And you're going to multiply the right side by 5. Now on the left side, this 5 that's in the numerator and the 5 that are in the denominator, or that's in the denominator, those two cancel out. So the only thing left on the left-hand side is the m. And what's 7 times 5? 35. Negative 3 equals x over 4 minus 1. Again, you're going to isolate the variable. First step, add 1. Very good. So the 1's on the right-hand side cancel out. Negative 3, or 3 negative plus 1.
Negative 2.
So negative 2 is going to equal x over 4. And then?
Multiply 4 to negative 2.
Right, and you're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 4, right? So multiply by 4 and multiply by 4. So 4 times 2 negative? Negative 8 equals x. Because these two 4's cancel each other out. Questions? Still remember how to do last week's problems, right? And then all we did was add a number in front of the variable or a number below the variable, right? When there's a number in front of the variable, What's your last step?
If there's a number in front of the variable.
When there's a number in front of the variable, so if it's 2x minus 10 equals 20, all right? Right now, without doing any of these steps, without writing anything down, what's your last step going to be? Divide by?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2. Okay? If the variable is being divided by, what's your last step going to be?
Divide, multiply.
To multiply by 5, right? Okay? So when you see these problems, you should know the 2 steps in your head, but you just have to do the steps on paper. The 2 steps for the first problem would be to add and then divide. The 2 steps on this problem would be to subtract and then multiply, right? All right. Any questions? Okay, you're going to get out another piece of paper right now. I'm going to give you about 10 problems to do or something like that, and I'm going to collect them before you leave. Your grade is going to be based on neatness, accuracy, neatness and accuracy. Okay?
Not getting it correct.
That's accuracy. So first and last name, top of the paper. First and last name in the upper right-hand corner. The date. Today's the 28th. And then the period number. That's in the upper right-hand corner of your paper. And I got to tell you, by the end of last week, your papers were beautiful. And then on top of this blue line, we're going to call it 8-28 practice. Now, I'm going to give you about 10 problems, but I'm not going to skip a line, okay? I want you guys to skip like 2 or 3 lines on your paper so that you've got room to do the work and you don't have to copy the problem down again.